In 3. Nothing's happening. It's broken. It's not going to work. Oh, wait a second. I see something going on. The bits are coming in. Ready? Here. And we're live.
I was waiting for it. I
Ow.
was like, we're not live until that happens.
I forgot to do it. I did a recording with Buster on Friday, and I forgot to do it. And, honestly, it really diminished the show. It felt like something was missing the whole time. And when I was editing it, I was like, where did the show actually start? I don't even know because, excuse me, I didn't do my official opening. Okay, well, dude, I got a lot of notes. Did you take notes?
I didn't take notes. I have a feed though up, so I am ready to discuss it. So, elephant in the room, No Switch Pro.
Oh yeah.
What do you think? Are you upset, angry, expected?
First, what are the 5 stages of a tragedy? What do they say? First is disbelief. Then it's
bargaining. Acceptance is the last one.
I'm not at full acceptance yet, but I moved through the stages pretty quickly, and
but we called this.
Yeah, we literally called it
because there's no need. I understand that there's people talking about like it's going to happen, but with the chip shortage and with how well Nintendo's doing, they even called it out. The Switch has been out for over 4 years. In fact, the Switch was announced. The Wii U during its life cycle, the Wii U lasted it was just under 5 years. It was like 4.5, and the Switch was announced at 4 years in. And this, there's no need to announce a Switch Pro though, right? Like, I mean, we've talked about this at length of why we thought that, like, they probably have another year before they're really going to announce it.
Yeah, and that from a marketing perspective, that is always what made the most sense. And so I don't know where all of this rumor mill stuff came from that these blogs picked up on and started saying that we're going to get a Nintendo Switch Pro, because that never made any sense to me, considering Nintendo Switch is doing so well. You don't, from a console perspective, you don't release a new console when supplies are restrained on your current console and it's selling so well that you can't even keep it in stock. So that never made any sense to me. What they're going to do is, and we literally called this, I don't know if it was last episode or the episode before that, they're going to release Nintendo Switch Pro. They're probably going to tease it before. Well, no, they can't tease it, because if they tease it, people are going to stop buying the regular Nintendo Switch.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they're gonna tease Breath of the Wild maybe 1 or 2 more times. They're going to give little development updates, and then they're going to announce Nintendo Switch Pro shortly before it goes on sale. Probably before the Breath of the Wild 2 sequel or Breath of the Wild 2 goes on sale, and then they're going to absolutely have a destroyer quarter of Christmas 2022.
Yeah, I think they probably, I could see it coming out spring 2022. I could see that with, like you said, they're not going to announce it because, it's just like with the PS5, right? They're not going to announce the PS6, and be like, it's going to come out in a year or two, right? Like it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think that you make the announcement, it comes out like probably 2 months later. If you can shorten that window, that's what you want to do. But yeah, we had called this, and this was, kind of the expected. I was hoping that they would announce, but at the same time, I didn't expect them to.
Yeah, I know. I was too. I was really hoping it was going to happen. But the way it started, I kind of knew pretty quick they're not going to announce any new hardware. This whole thing is going way too, well, unexcitedly. They're showing off a lot of games that probably a small minority of people may be excited about, but there's nothing really big here, because I feel like with Nintendo Switch Pro, you got to lead with that. I feel like you have to lead with that.
I agree.
You can't leave it, not for a piece of hardware that you're expecting people to buy, you can't leave it to the end. You got to lead off with it and then go through games. But anyway, at least we got a trailer for the new Breath of the Wild 2, which, dude, it just looks beautiful. The game looks beautiful. They didn't show us hardly anything, but I think they showed us enough to kind of whet our beards. And I got excited as soon as it came on and I saw Link flying through the sky. There was that scene where he had some kind of new power where he can go up through rocks. Did you catch that?
Well, it looked like there's a time mechanic here. So in a lot of Zelda games, they have either like 2 worlds, or they have like this duality, so to speak. Ocarina of Time, it was the same land, but it was like, past and present, or past or present and future sort of thing. Link to the Past, Light World, Dark World. I kind of feel like this is what they're going with. They're going with like a time mechanic where where you saw him going through, he was actually like it was essentially like going through time, right? Like he was traveling backwards in time
Hmm.
is kind of what I took that as, because there was a lot of that kind of shown in the
Oh,
trailer.
interesting.
And I love time travel. I mean, of course we do our verses. Back to the Future is going to be in our top 5 most likely. Uh, love time travel, and so to see it used in this way really makes me excited. Breath of the Wild is not my favorite Zelda game of all time. Ocarina of Time still is for me, but it's like it's my number 2, number 3. It's like it's great, but there were a few things holding it back. I think Breath of the Wild 2 has the possibility of being my favorite. I think if they have normal dungeons, I think if the story is a little bit greater, a little bit grander, and you just keep all of Breath of the Wild stuff in there, I think Breath of the Wild 2 will be like the definitive Zelda game, and it'll be the measuring stick for years to come.
Dude, I wonder if they're going to have a lot of dungeons in this game. It looks like the new mechanic is you're going to be up in the sky a lot and
Yeah.
exploring the sky along with, I'm sure, a bunch of new stuff on the ground. There was, I guess, in the original trailer, they did show someone, or they showed Zelda and Link wandering through what looked to be some kind of dungeon. So there's hope in
Mhm.
that capacity, but they didn't show anything about that in this trailer. So I kind of wonder if that was just a cutscene and not actually going to be part of the gameplay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for it. I know that you had mentioned you're thinking winter of 2022, and it probably feels like it's gonna be, but man, I really hope that it comes out, like March 3rd, 2022, 5-year anniversary. I really hope that they do that.
I think that you're right. They could do something in the spring and then have it be available for Christmas. They don't have to launch it at Christmas. I mean, clearly that would sell huge volumes of both the
Mhm.
console and the game. But for the anniversary, if they did a Nintendo Direct ahead of time and announced for the anniversary they're going to be launching this game and the new console, I think that's actually a really smart way to do it too, because they already have an event that's coming up that they could attach to create some kind of momentum for the product. So I hope that you're right, because 2022 holiday, that's a long ass time away, dude. I mean, we're only in some.
17, 18 months,
Yeah. I mean, we're not even at 2021 holiday.
Mhm.
So that's a really long time away. And he said that they're aiming for 2022. So
Oh, did he? Ooh.
yeah, he didn't
Ugh.
say that it was coming in 2022. He said that they were aiming for 2022. So it seems like
Holidays
there's,
most likely.
yeah, probably. Yeah, that's what he's aiming for.
Yeah.
So hopefully he's not using one of the Joy Cons to aim. Otherwise, he's going to totally miss his launch date. So,
So
so yeah, go ahead.
keeping on the Zelda theme, so there were 2 other things that they showed off. Obviously, Skyward Sword, which comes out next month. I'm just kind of curious. Are you interested in purchasing that at all? I know that you appreciate the Zelda games, and it's one that you didn't play.
I'm on the
Uh,
fence. It looks interesting. In the absence of Breath of the Wild, it looks interesting, and it might be something that I check out. The graphics look pretty dated to me,
yeah,
and that makes me a little less excited about it. But and also, I think you said it was one of your least favorite Zelda games, right?
I had done like it's kind of silly. I did like a ranking of my favorite Zelda games of all time. I want to say it was the 3rd from the bottom. Uh, it's the worst.
It doesn't even have any kind of any
It,
kind of
it might
place
be better.
of recognition. It's like not even at the bottom. It's like third from the bottom.
Yeah. It might be better because of the updates that they've done to it, but just the waggle like that you had to do was like it was infuriating because it just did not connect. And there were a lot of times where they forced the waggle in situations that it was unnecessary, where like, hey, the control stick would have worked in this situation. Like when you're flying, you had to like move the Wiimote in such a way. It was like, why don't I just use the joystick? I have it right here.
Yeah.
Like it's connected. And so there was decisions made that were really suspect. And so like and honestly like the dungeons were just like okay. There are some saving graces. There's this time mechanic actually in that one that's really cool and really well done. But yeah, it's I'm gonna play it. I'll let you know. The other thing too was the Game and Watch, the Zelda 35th anniversary Game and Watch.
Yeah.
Now I have I did purchase the Mario one here.
Huh.
Which is it's neat. It's super thin,
Yeah.
It charges via USB-C, which a lot of phones now are
That's
all
cool,
moving
actually.
towards. And I can play Mario 1, Mario 2 on there, which is really cool. And they announced the Zelda one. I'm pretty excited about that. But my question to you is, was that something that piqued your interest at all?
I would probably consider buying it as a collector's item. I don't think I'm going to buy it to play the original Zelda because how good does the screen on that look? I'm going to guess it kind of looks like shite.
No, it's actually like, I mean, I don't know how well you can see that, but it's, like an
Oh,
IPS display. Like it
is it
is really,
really?
like it's really good. Like if you can see there, it's a
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
it's a watch, and it's really good, and getting rid of the glare.
Wow, that's way better than I had expected. So it's not a
Yeah.
it's not a that screen actually looks like it might even be better than the Nintendo Switch.
It might be. It
Or
might be.
would you say it's on the same tier as or level of quality as the Nintendo Switch, the screen?
Yeah, I would say that it is.
Interesting. Cuz
Yeah.
how much is it? $60?
No, this was 50.
Oh, it's
And actually it's on sale right now for 40 if you want to get
that's
this.
actually shocking that it's so inexpensive for what it is to have a
Yeah.
screen like that. I mean, it is a small screen. What is that,
Yeah.
like 3 by 3 inches or something, or like
Oh,
four by three or something? Not even
super
four
tiny.
by three.
No. It's like I think 3 by 2 is the ratio
Okay.
that NES games used. So
Yeah.
um I'm pretty excited about it. And the fact that they have three different Zelda games. Zelda 2 is kind of the black sheep of the family. Better than Skyward Sword based on my rankings. But having Zelda 1 and the Game Boy Zelda I think will be really cool to have.
I'm trying to bring this up so I can look at a picture of it. It's also new that there's like nothing about this online yet. But
Mhm.
yeah, I might invest in that just as a collectible. I don't know if I'd play it cuz I mean, I could play it on the Switch. So
Yeah.
why would I, buy the Game & Watch? But the Game & Watch is a really cool nostalgic piece of hardware, which of course Nintendo is so good at creating little products like this that make you want to buy it to play a game that you already own on a console that already plays it better than the console that you're about to buy. And yet, I'm sure people will buy this a ton because they're like, hey, we're not going to release Breath of the Wild. What can we give people to
Mhm.
purchase in the meantime? Because people are so desperate to give their money to Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely, Breath of the Wild was the highlight of the show for me. It it just kind of gave us more of a sense of what we can expect from the game since we didn't know anything really. And I just love the game so much. I wasn't even really a big Zelda fan, I would say, before Breath of the Wild. I the mechanics of the game now are much more suited to the kind of games I like to play, like that open world discoverability, exploring strange terrains, figuring out how things work. Like I really like that, which is one of the reasons I really like Borderlands because that game is all about kind of that same thing. And then adding in like the lore of Zelda and the huge amount of content they have available. One of the things that Nintendo also does really well is tying together different franchises. Like, did you notice in that Mario Golf Super Rush game, which I really don't want to like, but I keep feeling like I want to buy it for some reason, even though I'm not a huge golfing person. But they had a golf level that took place in New Donk City from Super
Mhm.
Mario Odyssey. God, they're so good with that kind of stuff, and it just makes you want to buy something that you may not otherwise be interested in because it ties into something else that you
Mhm.
probably really loved. So now I'm thinking that I might want to get that game, but there's no way I'm spending $60 on a golf game.
No,
No way.
I like that's the thing too. Like I'm actually interested in that. I've played the other Mario Golf games. They're enjoyable but they are for just like with anything else, some things are worth more than others, right? The Zelda Game and Watch thing to me, like that's worth 60, $70 probably. Yeah, $60 for me. For you, it might only be like a $40 thing, right? Same thing with like Mario Golf. Like I want to get it, but to me, it's a like probably $35 digital. I would
Yeah.
purchase it, like digitally immediately. Physically, it's like, well, I want the ability to just kind of pick up and play for a little bit, put it back down. So I'm probably not going to buy it physically. And with that said, then it's like I have to wait for the holidays. I have to wait for the Black Friday sale that they'll inevitably have, and the game will be, $40 or so, and then I'll pick it up at that time. But there was probably the other biggest announcement. Breath of the Wild 2 was easily the biggest one. The other big one was Metroid 5, and it's not Metroid Prime, which is their 3D series, but Metroid, which they've done Metroid 1, 2, Super Metroid, Metroid Fusion, which was essentially the fourth one, and now Metroid 5, which is Metroid Dread. It's a 2D Metroid game, side scroller, exploratory game, but in 2D. Was that something I don't know if you enjoy the Metroid series at all, but was that something when you saw it you were like, "Oh, that looks kind of interesting."
Yeah, if nothing else, it hit the right level of nostalgia for me to be interested in it. I haven't really played a lot of the Metroid games that they've released over the years, but that one, for some reason, maybe the level design or the way they crafted the trailer, it was super nostalgic for the original Metroid, which of course I played and I loved. That was like one of the games I probably played the most of when I was a kid. And so I think that I am going to dip my toes back into the Metroid waters and at least see what the game is like now. I mean the level design and the art style is so reminiscent of the original game. I probably will really like it. Man, there's so many games that they talked about that looked interesting. I was going to mention one of the things I like about Nintendo Direct is how much gaming diversity, if you will, is present in the direct. They show you games that are big right next to games that are small, and games that are obscure right next to games that are popular, and they just keep kind of bouncing back and forth to both, which I find to be really cool. They highlight games that might have a really limited audience for a lot of people, or maybe they're more appropriate for like a Japanese audience. Like some of the games look like they might be really enjoyable to Japanese people, and they were like very puzzle based, and there's just a lot of stuff going on in the game, like stuff all over the screen, and a lot of RPG type games, and I like that kind of stuff. But I have a feeling that doesn't sell super well here in the U.S., and yet they still show it to you to see if you might be interested in it, which I find to be really cool. So yeah, taking the long way around to answer your question, I'm definitely interested in that. So I'm guessing that that's going to be a day one purchase for you.
Yeah, I pre-ordered it. In fact, actually, while we're doing this, I just pre-ordered Breath of the Wild 2 on Best Buy. So
What?
yeah,
You could no way.
yeah, I'm serious. I just
they're just ready to take your order. That's hilarious. Breath
Funny.
of the Wild.
Funny enough,
They know nothing about the game.
no.
They don't know when it's going to come out. They don't even know. I mean, they probably know how much it's going to cost.
So
but,
Best Buy used to do this thing called Gamers Club Unlocked, where
I was a member.
it was like $20 for 2 years or something like that,
Yeah.
and then you got 20% off all games, which is a really good deal. I mean, obviously, if you're buying a game at 60, you get it for 48. But in particular, it was off special edition. So I bought like $200 games for 160, which again, that's overpriced, but whatever. Anyway, before mine ran out, which it ran out a year and a half ago, I pre-ordered Metroid Prime 4, which was shown off 2 years ago. They barely mentioned it, and it has probably another 2 years before it's going to come out. I mean, this game is going to be like 5 years in development from the time I purchased it, quote unquote, at Best Buy, and then I'll get it for the $12 off, which is just silly. But
dude, this is hilarious. I'm showing it right now. They don't even have a picture of the game. They just have. They literally just have a title, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Nintendo Switch, and the price. You can pre-order it. And yeah, there's nothing else. They don't have, there's no overview, there's no specifications, there's just nothing.
Yep.
They're just that's smart actually. They're capitalizing off of the hype. They don't even have a picture of the game. And nor will they for like at least a year. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
If not longer. Did you get the 2-year Geek Squad
product
replacement for $8?
I decided against it, but just real quick for Metroid Dread, they released Metroid. They did a remake of Metroid 2: Samus Returns on the Game Boy or on the 3DS, and that was actually really well done. I didn't play it on the Game Boy. It came out originally on the Game Boy, so it was a good 30 year update for it, and it came out in 2017, I want to say. The game was really well done, and I had played Metroid games, but I'd never beaten one until Super Metroid, which I beat probably like 2014-ish or so. I finally beat one. And then I went through and I started playing a couple of the other ones. And Metroid Dread looks very similar to Samus Returns. I think it'll be a really good game. It's $60. It seems like one of those games where they need to have a lot in there for 60, like, because it seems like a $40 game to me. I mean, like, and that's not saying like I'm going to pay the $60, but I think for a lot of people, for $40, it's like, oh yeah, absolutely, I would buy that. So we'll see how it is. I have high hopes for it. They do take a lot of. It is the first original Metroid game that they're released. I think they said in like 12 years. So, hopefully it'll be a really good one.
God, I wish that I could show some of the trailers here as we're speaking, but it's just too dangerous. I can't do it. I don't know. I don't know how copyrighty Nintendo is with some of this stuff. I mean. Apple has started striking down people who show anything from their keynotes, and so unless you like cut it up and like make it look way different than what it was originally. But yeah, I'm looking at the artwork right now. Yeah, dude, it looks like an updated version of Metroid. It's Wow, it's so nostalgic just seeing all this artwork. It's not something that I've looked at in a long time. I have a Metroid amiibo, and dude, it's worth so much money. That thing sold out, and I could probably sell that thing for like $70 now. It's crazy. I originally brought it for like, or bought it for like 25. People
Well, and
love the
especially
Metroid stuff.
now too.
Oh shoot, that's actually a great point.
Hmm.
Dude, I got a bunch of amiibo that I bought and held on to see if they'd go up in value. Like I have a bunch of Breath of the Wild amiibo that I'm sure Nintendo will re-release once we get closer to Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh yeah.
But some of them they may not. I mean, they didn't with the original Breath of the Wild. Some of the amiibo are not from Breath of the Wild. They're just Zelda amiibo from other game, like the Wolf Link, from
Hmm.
what that was Zelda
Twilight.
Twilight Princess. Thank you. Yeah. So
Yep.
they didn't re-release. Well, I guess eventually they actually re-released that one too. But I'm gonna make a fortune off my amiibo. I've got a whole freaking cabinet full of them. You guys wouldn't believe how many amiibo I have.
Yeah,
All right.
stocks. No, amiibos.
Well,
That's
right now my amiibos is probably worth more than my stock. Sadly, my Palantir stock and my Doge, it's probably worth nowhere near as much as my amiibo are. They psyched us out. They psyched me out anyway when they talked about Hyrule Warriors DLC, and they're like, "This is the last thing we have to announce." I was like, "Dude, you got to be kidding me! Like this is gonna be." This is I was thinking they had an opportunity to win E3, and if this is all they have, then they basically just handed it to Xbox, who I think had a great E3.
Xbox was. I thought it was okay. There weren't a whole lot that I saw there that I was like, man, I really need to go get an Xbox Series X right now.
Yeah.
And I think that was the biggest problem is taking a look at the different presentations. I watched or saw the highlights of all of them. Capcom's was atrocious. That one was yesterday. It is not even worth watching. They said, here's what we're going to talk about at our E3 announcement. And that's literally all they did. There was nothing like knew this or knew that. It was like, what? Like, you're not telling us anything. That one was terrible. Square Enix was fine. They did their thing. Ubisoft was fine too. Microsoft would by default would be the winner there. So like them and Nintendo, I probably would give the edge to Nintendo, but mostly because I am biased towards them. But with the Bethesda, with all their games in there, that definitely helps them out quite a bit.
Oh man, that was the key. That's what they needed. They really needed some AAA top tier exciting game studios, and that Bethesda purchase I think is going to pay off huge for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they already announced like some of the games that Bethesda makes, like Starfield, which I'm sure until Microsoft purchased Bethesda was not going to be a platform exclusive, and now it is. It's only on Xbox and PC, and probably from like the Windows Game Store or the Microsoft Store, I should say. So they're going to do that a bunch with Bethesda games. It's actually really interesting to see how many games they're going to allow to go on other consoles. Now, look, I mean, they also own Minecraft, and Minecraft is available everywhere. So
Yeah.
there are certain games they are going to put on every single console. Like they talked about Doom Eternal at this Direct, and that is a Microsoft property. So it is now a Bethesda game. So I was just gonna rattle off some of the other games I thought were interesting. I was happy for you. I saw Tony Hawk, and I was like, "Oh boy, Aaron's gonna be." Did you already buy that?
Well, I bought it on the PS5, and so and I bought it last year. I mean, that was the thing.
But
so
you don't have it on the Switch.
I will most likely buy it on the Switch digitally. I probably will, but I'm gonna wait for there to be a sale because it's like $40, and like if I already own it, like I'm gonna wait for it to be like 20, and then I'll be like, oh, that's worth it. Now I can play it on the go.
Dude, I can't tell you how many copies of Borderlands I own. I own Borderlands on every single console, my PC. I mean, I've purchased Borderlands so many times. Sometimes when I try to purchase Borderlands, it's like it pops up a warning. It's like, do you know you already own this content? Because I've purchased it in so many permutations. It's like Borderlands paired with this. Borderlands comes with this game. Now it comes with this DLC. I mean, they just keep selling me Borderlands over and over and over again. Randy Pitchford, he owns me a Christmas card this year because I've spent so much on freaking Borderlands. So yeah, the other game I thought looked kind of fun, which it looks so Japanese, and I kind of love it, is Super Monkey Ball. Have you ever played that game, Super Monkey
Yeah, I
Ball?
played it on the GameCube. It was one of the launch titles, and I'm renting it and playing it, and it's fun. It's I think 3 games in one, so that'll make it a little bit nicer. I have an issue with controlling this. Don't clip this. I have an issue controlling balls. And
So I've heard. Hey, look, it's brave of you to admit that. Okay.
no. I like in games like when you are rolling and like you have to stop and like I have issues with it. Mario Galaxy was like this. Super Monkey Ball, and then there's a few other games I played that I have issues with balls, I guess.
All right, from the chat, what does that say? Oh, Duckley. I still don't have a Switch. I'm waiting for the new one. Dude, I don't know, man. I mean, look, if you don't care, I think waiting for the new Switch is probably the best move, but we don't know when the new Switch is coming out. You could be waiting 18 months for the new Switch. And meanwhile, there's a lot of Switch games that you could get now that are a lot of fun. I mean, I'm playing through I'm playing Luigi's Mansion again. Luigi's Mansion
Again?
3 again with my kids because they love that game so much. Super Mario Odyssey, one of the best Mario games I think ever made. Breath of the Wild, of course, which is on sale for like $40 almost perpetually now, and I've dumped probably 350 hours in that game. I'm still not even done with it. So there's a lot of content now that you could be going through as you wait for the next console. So I don't know. I think it's still worth buying a Switch now because it could be a while. Yeah, go ahead.
And Mario and Rabbids, which they showed off the sequel to it, was a surprise hit for me. I was very shocked. I picked it up when it was like $20. I was like, all right, it's worth trying and see. It's a turn-based strategy game, and I was like, oh, this is actually fun. Like there is a lot of strategy to the game. And I played it, let my boys watch me, and they loved it. They thought it was so cool, to see Mario like go and slide into somebody and then shoot them with a fireball and, use a hammer on them and stuff like that. That's a lot of fun. That game also is perpetually on sale. Now it's like $10 typically.
Yeah, they're practically paying you to play that game at this point. Yeah, I had the exact same experience. I wasn't interested in Mario Rabbids at all, and I'm trying to bring it up here. I bought it because it was so cheap. And I started playing it with my girls, and because they really wanted to play it, so I was like, okay, let's just try this game out. And I started to love it, and then they started to get bored by it. So oh my gosh, it's $10 right now. It's $10 right now. Yeah, it's a really fun turn-based strategy game. I mean, I haven't finished it yet because I only play games that my girls like. But it was a ton of fun, and I do want to actually finish it. So, and they did announce. They announced a new one.
Sparks of Hope, I believe.
Sparks of Hope, right? Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Which they say. What do they say when that's coming out? Sparks of Hope. There is a scene in the original Mario Rabbids game. If you let the game go on long enough before hitting start to actually start the game, where one of the rabbits he makes like a little fart and then he starts giggling. My girls love that scene. That's one of the only reasons they ever want me to play that game. But they're like, wait, don't press start. Don't press start. Just let it go. And then they see that scene, and of course they die laughing when they see him do that. And then they're like, okay, let's go play Luigi's Mansion 3 now.
I'll have to show my boys that. There were a couple of other games that I thought looked rather interesting, and some of them, just smaller, and not that much smaller, but Cruisin' Blast, which is there was Cruisin' USA, Cruisin' Exotica, Cruisin' the World, which came out on the Nintendo 64, and that was a Nintendo property that they would do in the arcades. And so there's one called Cruisin' Blast that is going to be coming out on the system. That's like $15 game for me. It's just a typical racer where you're like, and it's a kind of a silly, outlandish one done by Nintendo. Could be a lot of fun. The WarioWare series is also very enjoyable. It's a very silly, short mini games that you play, and it can be fun. That one is $50 I had seen, so we'll see how that goes. The other one that I'm very interested in, I don't know if a lot of other people will be or not, but it's the Advanced Wars games. So I played those on the Nintendo DS, and it's a turn-based strategy. It's a 2D turn-based strategy where you have an army and you're trying to take down another army. And the levels can be anywhere from like a 5-minute level to one I played, it was like 30 minutes, because you're just like really into the level and you're really into trying to take care of these, the enemy army. And that one looked really good. And the fact that they are redoing Advanced Wars 1 and 2 and selling into one
Advanced
game.
Wars. I mean, that's kind of what I mean is when I was watching the keynotes, thinking to myself, God, some of these games are so obscure, and yet they're featuring them and giving them front page treatment. Nintendo is remastering the first two Advanced Wars games for the Switch. Yeah, people are saying don't show any footage. In fact, Professor Hawkeye. Nintendo is notoriously the worst with copyright takedowns. They used to be worse. I don't know if they're still as bad as they were. I don't think they are. Because they allow you to stream games online now, and they didn't let you do that before at all. So I wonder if they would let me show a trailer, but, alas, I'm not going to try it. Let's see. He also says Microsoft doesn't care if you buy an Xbox. They just want you on Game Pass. Well, yeah, but you gotta have an Xbox if you're gonna be on Game Pass. So
Well, you can have PC as well.
That's true, but I bet you they make most of their money from Game Pass on Xbox.
The thing, and I agree with him with what he's saying. Of course, it is focused on just like, hey, give us the $15 a month or whatever for video games, and I totally get that. And we have Netflix, and people are into just the streaming sort of capability. And I'm probably the old dinosaur that says, well, I kind of like to at least somewhat own it, or like own part of it, or feel like I own it. And so like when I buy the games, like I Nintendo, maybe I would give them money every month to be able to play all the first party games, but honestly, I would rather just purchase them. So that way it's like, hey, I actually own the physical disc, or I own the physical cartridge. And like I said, I'm in the minority because obviously there's a lot of people on Game Pass and a lot of people enjoy it.
Well, especially because they just keep. I think their problem before was really just like the selection of first party games that was available. And Microsoft is known for creating a specific kind of game like Halo, like Forza, and they didn't have as much variety as they really needed to sell a service like that. Like the key to Netflix is the immense amount of variety you get, right? You get to watch all this different kind of content, all for one, subscription fee. And so if Microsoft wants to make Game Pass work, they have to keep adding really phenomenal first-party games to the service in order to make the service more valuable. So I think that's going to happen, Now, Professor Hawkeye's saying that they do have Game Pass for PC. Yeah, I know they have Game Pass for PC. I just think that PC gamers and Xbox console gamers, they're just different. If I had to guess, my suspicion is Game Pass is immensely more popular on a console than it is on PC. For whatever reason, I just think PC gamers are just more particular about how they buy the games and how much they're willing to spend. I think console gamers are much more willing to spend more money on a game, whereas PC gamers are waiting for the 2 times a year that Steam is going to put those games on sale. And with Microsoft in control of all the games that go onto your Xbox, I think that there's less motivation probably for them to put those games on a serious discount. Like, they have sales all the time, but I don't think that anyone matches Steam's sales, like the twice a year sales. Like, they're crazy.
Yeah, I've purchased games that I have never played, that are super cheap. And I agree with what you're saying when it comes to PC versus console gaming, and how console gamers are more likely to do that. I think one of the things that it does come down to also is when you are, if one of the things that's nice about Game Pass is, let's say you, me, and a couple other friends are online playing Xbox a bunch, and we don't own a certain game. It's like, oh, you got to play it. It's so much fun. It's a great game. It's like, oh, it's $15. Do I really want to buy it? Or it's a $60 game. Do I really want to buy it? It's like, oh, I have Game Pass. I can just download it, which is like, oh, that's amazing, So that way we can all game together, and we don't have to worry about buying, like, okay, what game are we buying this week? What game are we buying this month? That sort of thing. So that's a really nice, version of it. The downside, I think, with some of it is that you have a lot of games that get delisted. And there are certain games where you only want to play once and you're fine, just like there are certain movies. You only need to see it once, maybe twice, and you're good. It's not Back to the Future or Star Wars where you see it, 20 times in your lifetime. It's different. But I just, the idea of being able to pick up, there are certain gems that you want to go back and play over and over again.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild for you, is one, obviously, with 350 hours.
I still haven't finished it. Yeah, I still have shrines left. I just found a shrine the other day. I couldn't believe it. We were walking around and we saw that orange glow in the woods, and I was like, that cannot be a shrine that we haven't seen. And it was. And it was a hard shrine, too. It took us 45 minutes to go unlock it.
Yeah, but something like that, right? You would be very annoyed if you're like, oh, well, I only own this because I'm paying $15 a month for it, as opposed to I purchased it. And when it comes down to it, it's like, you can do both, of course. You can pay $15 a month and you can purchase games. But there are the ones where you're just like, you know what? I'd rather just put my foot in one camp instead of the other,
Let's see here. Professor Hawkeye saying Nintendo emailed streamers 30 minutes before the show to not stream. Wow, that is interesting. Dude, at least they warned people. Like I mentioned doing it with Apple. Apple used to always allow it, And so I was like, cool, I'll stream over the keynote. And then they hit me with a copyright strike or whatever they did to me. I mean, YouTube actually took my video down on a community guidelines strike. So, which is weird. I'm like, what guidelines did I violate? None. So clearly, Apple has some kind of influence with YouTube and somehow got my stream taken down. And I was warned. I didn't actually get a strike. I was warned. And they're like, don't do this again. And the warning is still on my account. I can't get rid of it. I'm like, yes, I know. I'm not going to do it anymore. But so I want to bring this up. I have learned a little bit about this program, more about this program recently, called Xbox All Access, which I was talking to Aaron about. And I find this to be an intriguing program. And if you're watching the stream, I would be curious to hear what you think about this. So Xbox All Access. Now, I thought this meant that you got access to Game Pass for PC and Xbox, and you do, I think, because it's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Which, does that include PC? I'm not sure, actually.
I believe that one, the All Access, is the one that includes the PC.
Okay. So you also get a free, well, it's not free. You get an Xbox console up front with no upfront cost. So it's basically It's basically like, the way a lot of people buy their iPhone now. You pay it off over 2 years, and then once the 2 years comes to an end, you own your Xbox. You can, switch to another service like Xbox Game Pass or something, and then you don't have any more payments for the Xbox. I don't think a lot of people know about this program, and I was curious if you guys thought this was worth it. It's $25 a month, and so you get the console up front, and you also get Game Pass Ultimate, so you get all these games. And now you get the Bethesda games too, which I actually think is kind of alluring, and there's going to be some exclusives from Bethesda, and of course some timed exclusives, I'm sure. Coming to Game Pass. So, I don't know. Worth it to you, Aaron?
I would rather just buy the console outright.
Yeah.
And like I've looked into if the Xbox One or if the Xbox Series X was more readily available, I would have purchased it by now, just because of like some of the backwards compatibility with GameCube and, stuff like that. It's like, I want to buy this. But it's not available anywhere, and I'm not going to hunt it down, in the same way I hunted down the PS5, because that was worth it to me, because I play a lot of PS4 games and now obviously PS5. And the Switch Pro, I would do very similar things. So it's really, I think, up to Microsoft to be able to produce enough and get rid of the amount of resellers that you see out there, is just because it's unnecessary. And then you have the places like GameStop that bundle it in with other things where you're spending $900 and you're like, look, I just want the console. All right, like, just give it to me. But I think the other thing too is that, Microsoft just hasn't shown me anything that I want to buy now. Yeah, it's like, I need to get this. Halo Infinite did look really cool, but if it's on the Xbox One, it's like I can just play it on there. What is the need to jump? Is there something in particular? 120 frames per second, that seems really cool. Obviously 4K gaming, but is there something else? Is there a game that I can only get on there that the experience on the Xbox Series X makes it worth buying?
Let's see here. Professor Hawkeye, the All Access actually helps get rid of scalpers, since you can't really scalp a payment plan. Yeah, that's true. I mean, honestly, if you're going to keep a console, and most people do this for, 2, 3, 4 years, then, and you want Game Pass, that's the other key, right? Then this is definitely the way to go, because you don't have to pay for your console up front. Like, why would you spend $500 on a console up front when you could just spread it out over 2 years? Now, some people like to own their console or their phone up front. And admittedly, I buy my phone up front because I would rather just buy it and not have the payments every month. But, it depends on what you're into. And actually, next phone, I probably won't do that, just because I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm buying my phone up front. I'm spending all this money up front when I could just be trickling it out over 2 years. But if I'm going to upgrade every year, then that makes me want to just buy it and then resell it and stuff. But anyway, so there's an option for you as well. All right, let me see here. Metroid Dread, we talked about that. Super Mario Golf, or Mario Golf Super Rush, right? Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Home. Super Monkey. Oh, right. I think that covers all my games. The only one I thought looked kind of interesting, Danganronpa Decadence. I was like, dude, what is this game? It's probably super popular. It's probably some really popular game that I've never heard of before. But I was like, dude, what? Danganronpa Decadence. And there's like a whole series of these games. I've never even heard of these games. You got to be a freaking gaming historian to like really cover Nintendo well, because they have all these obscure games that no one's actually ever heard of.
Yeah, I not heard of that one. They also announced Shin Megami Tensei, which is a pretty big Japanese title. I've never played any of them. It's just, it doesn't appeal to me, which, it appeals to somebody, obviously. And they showed off quite a bit of it. So obviously there were people that were really excited about it.
Yeah, and again, I mean, they show this Nintendo Direct, I'm sure, without the English, narration in Japan. So they're trying to cover both markets, which is always why Nintendo Directs are always a little bit quirky, because they're always walking the line between Japanese and like U.S. culture, and they're always walking the line between games that Japanese people are interested in and games that like American people are interested in. And I think the games are oftentimes like there are some overlapping areas where we all like the same games, but there are also some areas where it's like we're not interested in those games at all, and they're not interested in our games at all. So
No,
Nintendo
I mean,
definitely has to walk that line.
there's a reason why the 360 ended up not selling. Like they were far and above outselling the PS3, for the first couple years, and then 360 obviously petered off because like you sold all of them in America. Japan didn't sell almost any of them, and the PS3 outsold it like almost like at the end of the life cycle. It's because Sony, they big in Japan. The Japanese folks, that's what they bought. They didn't buy a 360 to go with their Wii.
Yeah, the Japanese people just really weren't fans of Xbox. They liked PlayStation and they liked Nintendo. So,
Mhm.
and I'm sure Nintendo sells really, really well. It wouldn't surprise me if it was like the top selling console in Japan, although maybe it's the PlayStation. I'm not really sure. All right, dude, that's all I got. Do you have anything else that you want to, any final words before we wrap up the stream here?
No, I think that there's some excitement for some of the Nintendo games coming out this year and into next year. Unfortunately, COVID, having that be the big thing that happened. I guess I shouldn't have said that. Sorry, which should not be
No,
named.
you can, I
Last
think
year,
we're a little better. It's a
we're
little bit
better
more
now.
relaxed now. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
slip it in once or twice, if you say it too many times, I think YouTube's like, oh
Yeah.
no,
Oh.
we gotta shut down the stream.
So in 2020, we had games come out, but they were already so deep in development. So it's like, hey, we just got to push it past the finish line. They weren't able to, a lot of game companies weren't able to put a lot of effort into some of the other games. So we see a lot of 2022 release dates. I mean, that's what Microsoft showed off was a lot of 2022. And I think it's very similar for Nintendo, where a lot of games, there are some 2021 games that look really cool, but a lot of it got pushed to 2022. There are some quirky games I'm excited about. The Advanced Wars game, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
The only downside with that is I saw it was $60 game, and I'm like, when they showed it off, I'm like, oh, this could be on the eShop today, $20. I'm buying it right away,
Yeah.
And it's like 60. I was like, what? No, like, okay, fine, maybe I'll meet you halfway. We'll do 30. All right, maybe 35, and I'll buy it.
You're gonna be waiting a while for that game, I think.
I know.
You're waiting for it to hit 30. It's gonna be a while.
Yeah. So I think that, and then of course the Switch Pro, a little disappointment, but as we talked about at the beginning, kind of expected.
Yeah, I really was disappointed. I mean, you got me hyped, dude. I didn't even think that we were gonna get a Switch Pro. And then last time we talked about this, you were so certain that we were gonna get it. You're like, yeah, it's coming, and get ready for it.
I think it is. It's gonna come soon. I mean, at some point in time. But
yeah, I would have lost all inhibition. Like I was thinking, like, do I really want to spend $500 on a console? I would have. I would have. It automatic pre-order. I would have figured out a way to make it work. Like a little bit from the children's college fund. Everyone eats a little bit less this month. We would have figured out, how to make that happen.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's important technology. I need it it's for work. It's really for work. I need to get it for work so I can talk about it for work. All right, well, shout out to Professor Hawkeye. I'm not sure if he's an actual professor, but he did have a lot of information, and he's given us all sorts of interesting tidbits here in the chat. So thank you for that. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, for everyone who is watching live. If you want to get more content just like this, Aaron and I talk about this kind of stuff all the time. We talk about movies, video games. You can get Cultcast off topic. It is at support.thecultcast.com, support.thecultcast.com. Some of you who have asked if we're going to be doing some exclusive content via the new podcast features that have been added so that people can subscribe there. We might do that. I'm not really sure. But we're trying to work in more Cultcast content, so like bonus content on the support.cultcast.com channel, so that people can get a little bit of a mix between the new content, between me and Aaron and me and Buster, and the original Cultcast content that we are making, and I just throw the footage away if we don't use it. So now I'm putting that into the show whenever it's available over at support.cultcast.com. We're going to go ahead and wrap up there. Hope everyone has a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you to the amazing Aaron Hughes for taking a break in the middle of his day in the middle of his day to do this for us. In fact, it was his idea to do it in the middle of the day. I probably would have waited till tonight, but I think it's better just to get it out of the way now because if we were fresh off of it. We're going to go ahead and wrap the stream up now. I'm literally hovering over the end stream button. I've clicked it, and now it's asking me if I'm going to end it. And I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that right now. So we'll see you guys next time.